So let's work on this contact page. There I of course need to return some JSX code, but I'll again keep it simple and create a separate component which holds the actual content of this page. For this, in the components folder, I'll add a new subfolder, contact, and in there I'll add a contact-form.js file, and attached you also find a styling file for this contact form page, for this contact form component I mean. You find a contact form module CSS file which you should add to that folder. Then in contact form.js we create our contact form functional component just as we are used to, like this. And we can also import the styles already, import classes from /contact-form.module.css, and then return our page content here. So return a section with a class name of classes contact here, and then in that section, let's say a h1, not h2, but h1 tag, where we say something like, how can I help you? And then below that, the actual form. Now that form will receive a class of form, and then in there, I came up with a certain structure, which fits the styles I provided to you, where we have a div with a class of controls, so plural, and in there, another div with a single form control, and hence a class of control. And then in there, a label with the HTML4 prop set to email, where I say your email, because we're prompting the user for an email address. And below that, an input of type email with an ID of email, which is required, like this. And then I'll replicate this control div here inside of that controls div still. So the two control divs are side by side here. And then here we have the name, and we change HTML4 to name and the ID to name, and it's still required, but the type is set to text. And then below that controls div, so not inside of it, but below it, I'll add another div with a class name of classes control, so singular again, with another label with a HTML4 prop set to message, where we say your message, and below that a text area with an ID of message and rows set to 5, like this. And then below that another div where I set the class to actions, where I want to have my submit button. So a simple button where I say send message. That's my form here. Now we can use that in the contact page and output contact form like this. Make sure to import it, of course. And if you save all of that and reload that contact page, you should see that contact form here. Now that's a basic form. The goal now is that when we send our form, we send it to an API route, and then there we store it in a database. We don't directly talk to a database, as we learned, because if we would do so, if we would add code for talking to a database in the contact form component, then we would have to put our database credentials into this component as well. And we don't want to do that for security reasons. Hence, we'll do it the other way and add our API route plus the code to talk to that API route in the next lecture.